Blessings, namaste, and love, everyone. I'm a spiritualist, psychic, astrologer, and medium, Sette. As always, I thank you for offering me this opportunity to share with you my astrological and spiritual insights. And in this segment, we are looking to the month of March 2024. We are commencing our eclipse season. We have a lunar eclipse at the end of March and a total solar eclipse, which is known as the Great American Eclipse, on April 8th. I won't discuss the April eclipse until the April video, but I will be touching upon and sharing my insights of the March 25th lunar eclipse of this month. We begin March with our new moon. Now, the new moon is on March 10th, and as always, I suggest to honor the balsamic phase of the moon, which prepares us for the coming lunar cycle. The balsamic phase is the last phase cycle of the lunar cycle, and that begins on March 8th, 2024 at 1:12 a.m. That is the opportunity to prepare for the new moon cycle, what's coming on the new moon. It's a time to just step back, relax, refresh, rejuvenate, allow yourself to become abundantly clear as to what seeds that you'd like to plant in motion, the energy that you'd like to cast in motion at the time of the new moon. Now, as I said, our new moon is on March 10th, and the exact time of the new moon is at 5 o'clock a.m., and that is Eastern Daylight Time, the first Sunday in March, which is March 10th. We do spring forward, so we're already in daylight time at that moment of the new moon. Now, we have our new moon in March at 20 degrees of Pisces, and what's so energetic about this new moon is that the ruler of Pisces is Neptune. Now, Neptune is within 6-7 degrees of an exact conjunction with the new moon. A conjunction aspect is when two elements are at the same position along the zodiac, such as on a new moon, when the sun and moon are in exact alignment and they precisely come together. Whenever there is a conjunction with any element, it begins a new cycle. When two elements are completely opposite, directly, diametrically opposed one another, as on a full moon, that's called an opposition, and that's a full moon energy, and it occur with any alignment. Now, with this new moon, because Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, so that those Pisces energies are very, very much activated and amplified at this new moon. There's also a favorable aspect from Uranus to the new moon, which is it's about 30 degrees away. That's called a sextile aspect. That presents opportunities. That 60-degree alignment is an opportunity alignment. So what I want to elaborate on with this new moon is that, especially with the presence of Neptune, all those Pisces elements, for example, the psychic faculties, our spirituality, our sense of spirituality, and really recognizing and understanding how we are all connected to one another, but also too, that is going to amplify the psychic sensitivity in everyone. Every one of us has the ability to really tap into the intuitive psychic faculties, if you mean, but it doesn't suggest that everyone is to go out and conduct psychic readings, if you will. It's so that we can recognize, among many things, how spirit is guiding us, how spirit is communicating with every one of us. So this new moon, it's certainly an auspicious opportunity to once more allow yourself to recognize your own personal connections with the spirit realm, so that you are clear as to how spirit is guiding you. But also too, we've all had those experiences where we've had that gut instinct. That's really spirit tapping us on the shoulder. Sometimes we don't acknowledge that, we don't honor that, and most of the time when we don't honor it, we are regretful that we didn't honor our feelings. This is a time to so much allow ourselves to really recognize those interactions. And I've always elaborated on so that we can recognize what's coming through, and we can trust those interactions, because sometimes what spirit shows us is very far-fetched and it can seem out of the realm of possibilities. However, when you're clear in your being, you're anchored and grounded, you know that even though what spirit is showing you, how abstract it may appear, you trust that what they're showing you, what spirit is sharing with you, is absolutely necessary as well as beneficial for your continued spiritual journey. Clearing ourselves, grounding ourselves. When we're clear, when we're grounded, that's when we know that we can trust what spirit is showing us, regardless of how abstract or how out of the ordinary or how out of left field it might seem. Because sometimes, remember, spirit can see the bigger picture, so it can see and observe the possibilities that we don't always recognize, because it can see the bigger picture. It observes from afar, and it will share with us what it is observing would be beneficial for our journey, our growth, our personal spiritual development, as well as perhaps fine-tuning some of our goals, our ambitions, and our desires. Spirit is very much omnipresent, omni-knowing, if you will. There's another word for that, but I'm not remembering what that is. Maybe omniscient. I'm not certain. However, what I emphasize, it can see everything. It can see all the possibilities so much more than we can. That's why we need to allow ourselves, or rather, it would serve a greater purpose for us to trust what spirit is sharing with us. And this new moon is such an auspicious opportunity to really strive towards those goals, because this new moon is very much preparing us for the eclipse season, and so that we can navigate whatever occurs in the outside world. Even if it may seem unsettling, it may seem as though there's a lot of chaos going on, and certainly there has been quite a bit of that. There might be more as we go through these next few months. However, whenever we share anything that may seem unsettling, as long as we understand how to work with the energy, it's all about working with the energy, about going with the flow, about understanding how to ride that wave and not be inundated and overwhelmed by a big wave. To ride that wave, when we understand how to work with the energy, then we can circumvent, navigate whatever is occurring with grace and ease, and make the most of an experience. We've been saying, or rather I've been saying for many, many years, to recognize the importance of really being in the world and not of it. This new moon is such an auspicious opportunity to allow yourselves to recognize the importance of being in a place of faith and trust. This is a time of trust. We are very much in times where spirit is inspiring us to trust the bigger picture, trust something greater. And sometimes it's necessary to surrender. Quite often when we hear the term surrender, some may think that it suggests relinquishing control, giving up our power. However, when we surrender to these energies and the planetary cycles and understanding how to work with these elements, we are very much in control. We're very much instrumental in creating some of the most beneficial, auspicious outcomes of all of these alignments. And certainly there are times where the challenges, if you will, are necessary for our spiritual growth. And again, when we understand how to work with the energy, we counteract any of the negative influences, any of the difficulties which may sometimes be connected and coincide with a challenging situation. Not a problem, a situation. There's a difference there. So what I'm emphasizing at this new moon is to strengthen your spirituality. Allow yourselves to really be spiritually strengthened, solidified, anchored in your faith, with which whatever faith resonates with you. Remember, there's no right or wrong here. Allow yourself to even sometimes explore new metaphysical and spiritual modalities. The auspicious alignment from Neptune to the new moon, from Uranus to the new moon in Pisces, does present an auspicious opportunity to explore alternative understandings, specifically connected to metaphysics. Uranus it sometimes can shake us up to wake us up. It's the element of awareness, awakenings, but it also presents us with the ability to think abstractly, and how it is energizing the Pisces new moon. It's an opportunity to explore abstract understandings of spirituality. There's so much information available in the outside world, and yes, sometimes it can be very confusing. And that being said, with the placement of Neptune in such close proximity to the new moon, it certainly can indicate there can be much confusion and in the outside world, as well as information that could potentially mislead us. Neptune is probably the most tricky element to work with. And that being said, whenever we understand how to work with the energy, then we counteract any of the potential negative influences. With Neptune, because it connects and represents the spirit realm, it's all about going within. When there's a strong Neptune influence in our charts, either natally or by transit, we always suggest to recognize how the outside world can potentially create overwhelming confusion. Neptune can be quite nebulous. However, when we understand how to work with the energy, we counteract and offset that. And to properly work with any Neptune influences, it's all about going within, quieting the mind, becoming peaceful, whether it be prayer, meditation, whatever resonates with you, quieting the mind, going within, blocking out the potential negative influences of the outside world, and becoming clear and grounded, because then that voice within us, that's spirit, and that's Neptune communicating with us with clarity. Neptune can potentially bring confusion, and it also presents great clarity. And again, it's all about understanding how to work with the energy. So in these coming times, especially as we approach the lunar eclipse on March 25th, more than ever, it is strongly suggested to be diligently dedicated towards becoming and being spiritually strengthened, keeping yourself energetically clear and grounded with the energies of the earth. When we have that dedication at the forefront, then we have the potential to very much empower ourselves and counteract any of those negative influences in the outside world. Remember, no matter what goes on in the outside world, it does not mean that we cannot enjoy peacefulness and anything else that we would desire to enjoy within ourselves. It's all about understanding our thought process, what we're projecting. I believe it was in chapter 3 of my book, I wrote that if we allowed ourselves to acknowledge and honor every thought that we had in every moment of every day, we would completely understand how we are creating our realities. Remember, that creative process is thought, word, deed. Those three elements, when combined, bring us the experiences that sometimes we miscreate when we don't understand how we are miscreating and perhaps projecting thoughts and words that are not necessarily in alignment with our desires. So as I'm emphasizing here, to certainly recognize the abundant importance of being spiritually strengthened. This new moon on March 10th is that opportunity to allow yourself to become spiritually strengthened more than ever. Now, on March 19th, the sun transits into the sign of Aries, and that will occur on March 19th at 11:06 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun going into Aries begins the spring time frame. Every year we hear about spring cleaning. Actually, the winter time, as I understand it, is the more auspicious opportunity, the more favorable opportunity, especially energetically favorable, to conduct that spring cleaning, because the winter time is the time to go within. So whenever there's a new beginning, as in the spring, the vernal equinox, you already want to be prepared. You don't want to already, begin doing the cleaning when we've already begun a new cycle, especially the spring time frame. And with Aries, remember, Aries begins the progression of the natural zodiac. So before that that time commences, you already want to have everything prepared and cleaned. So certainly the spring time frame, excuse me, the winter time frame, especially when the sun is in Pisces, because Pisces is about going within, going deep within ourselves. Another aspect of this of the new moon is that we can allow ourselves the opportunity to realize, understand perhaps those subtle programs within ourselves that sometimes regulate what it is that we are being. And sometimes, most of the time, it's unknowing because it is a deep subconscious, program. Sometimes there are discordant emotions that exist within the self that need to be released. That's also another opportunity of this new moon that we have at the beginning of March. The release of all of that discord before the vernal equinox certainly is suggested. And, it doesn't mean that you got to rush and be concerned about, oh, I need to do this by the spring time frame. Don't worry about it. It's not about being stressed out. Just, perhaps recognize one or two things within yourself that need to be corrected and released. So once the spring time frame commences, you're ready to make a new start. Also, just review what's going on energetically in your home and clear away, any imbalances that sometimes occur in the home as well, especially energetically. Burn some sage, light some incense, whatever resonates with you, as long as you have that intention and that desire to correct any of those imbalances. Certainly, if you can, be so before the vernal equinox. One of the challenges with the Aries element is the ability to follow through. Aries initiates at the beginning of the zodiac. However, it doesn't always have the ability to follow through with whatever it sets out to achieve for itself. Sometimes Taurus will do that because that's the next sign. But the Aries time, as the sun transits Aries, certainly it's an opportunity for us to recognize, all right, where in our lives, or what is it in our lives, where in our lives are we not following through with whatever we cast in motion? Aries is also the sign of the leader, the entrepreneur. Every one of us has that potential to be a leader. It doesn't mean that we need to go out and lead large groups. Sometimes we need to do that for ourselves. So, you give yourself the opportunity, or you permit yourself that opportunity to recognize how you can be a leader, if anything, just for yourself. Is there any fear connected to that? And to just kind of release any of those imbalances that don't allow you to really be a leader, to be instrumental in perhaps leading yourself in your life and what it is that you would choose to experience for yourself as well. Many have heard that Pluto has transited into Aquarius. I think I touched upon it in my last couple of videos. Pluto will dip back into Capricorn in the summer time frame. It won't fully begin its passage of Aquarius until I believe it's November 14th. However, at the vernal equinox, it's forming such a nice alignment to the sun in Aries. It's that fire-air element. Aquarius is an air sign. Many people think Aquarius is a water sign because it's a sign of the water bearer, but it's an air sign. And Aries is a fire sign. Air and fire is a wonderful, wonderful combination because the fire needs the air to burn. But that fire-air element is very conducive to creativity. With Pluto in Aquarius, it's the ability and the potential to really think abstract and in evolutionary terms, as we suggest. Part of this experience overall that so many are having right now is to really recognize your own contributions to humanity and what you can do in your own small way. And there really is no small ways. It's really having big desires and intentions to create great things and goodness that will benefit the highest good of all. That alignment with Pluto and the Aries sun does suggest that the spring time frame, so many more individuals will be given inspiration as to how they can be a humanitarian and how they can embark upon endeavors that will contribute to the highest good of all. Becoming very selfless is very much also part of what is occurring for every one of us in this spring season, because so much is changing on a quantum level. And we understand that all of these changes, even though they may not necessarily seem to be beneficial, really are for the highest good of all. So we do suggest to allow yourself to recognize how what is occurring, even though it may not seem that way, really is for the highest good of all concerned. Now, on March 25th, and the exact time of the lunar eclipse is 3 o'clock a.m. The eclipse is in early degrees of Libra. It's just after 5 degrees of Libra. So Libra is the element that is most represented, or most represents, balance. This eclipse will create balance where there is extreme imbalances, especially in the outside world. Libra represents nature and the natural world. Just observe how innately nature will always create a balance. This lunar eclipse is very much about creating balance for ourselves personally, as well as in the outside world. So certainly allow yourself to reflect on where there may be potentially imbalances in your life, and have the courage, employ the courage to correct those imbalances. And again, with awareness, it all can be conducted with grace and ease. It doesn't mean there has to be disruptions. There may certainly be overwhelming disruptions in the outside world. However, be in the world and not of it, and do not allow yourself to take on the negative influences of those potential disruptions. Remember when I talked about earlier about that psychic sensitivity and becoming spiritually strengthened? When we are spiritually resilient and spiritually absolute and in our faith, and firmly anchored with the energy of the earth, we're like that willow tree that bends but doesn't break. We go with the flow. So we are very much being prepared for, some potential chaos going on in the world. And there's already that going on. But that chaos will always bring greater experiences of awareness. Chaos always does precede great change. That's that Uranus influence. And Uranus will be prominent in the coming year for us as well. So that being said, those awakenings, those elevations to higher levels of consciousness and universal brotherhood is really very much what will be unfolding in these times. That Uranus elements is the ruler of Aquarius, and certainly we are being prepared to welcome the age of Aquarius. We're not quite there yet. We are ushering in the age of Aquarius. And just because we may not necessarily be there yet, it certainly does not suggest that we are not at opportunity to enjoy the blessings of all that Aquarius energy, like that sense of oneness and brotherhood and unity. We've so gotten away from these innate spiritual connections we have with one another. We're so consumed by the devices and the cell phones that there has been an element of detachment. And part of the balance is to correct that extreme detachment that unfortunately has been taking place with many individuals. That being said, I'm always suggesting at least one day a week, just shut everything down. Shut down the cell phone, shut down the computers, and really get back to the connections that are very much necessary that we have with one another, like those Sunday dinners. Just shutting down the outside world, be with your family. And if you don't have the opportunity to be with the family, be okay with being with yourself. Read a book organically, an actual physical book, not solely on the device. Even though, you're interacting with the device, there's an electromagnetic frequency that's emanating from that device. When you read a book organically, there's no EMFs there, and it allows your mind to really absorb and process without interference what you're reading. When we're reading something on a tablet or an electronic device, again, as I said, there's an electromagnetic frequency that radiates from that. That can potentially interfere with our ability to completely, fully process and understand what it is that we are reading, especially if it's spiritual material, self-help material, metaphysical material, anything spiritual, metaphysical, religious. Yes, I suggest reading an actual organic book and not reading it on a device, because again, all those EMFs, they will interfere with your ability to completely and fully process the information that you're interacting with in those materials. As I said, this lunar eclipse is very much about creating a balance in the outside world. In the eclipse chart that's cast for the United States, the full moon is placed in the ninth house sector of the chart. The ninth house is the arena of the chart that represents, among many things, the higher mind, the higher self, our connections with higher beings. We've been hearing so often how there's been an increase in the frequencies of UFO sightings. We understand that those extraterrestrial beings, they are angels. They are very much here to assist humanity. Sometimes there's a negative fear connotation with all of that. And it doesn't mean that there aren't malevolent beings. We understand that the majority of the presence of the beings that are interacting with humanity at this time are most benevolent. So just in simple terms, allow yourself to, once again, it goes back to what I said earlier about recognizing your connection with spirit. Recognize your connections and understand your connection with the higher mind and the higher self, because this full moon, this lunar eclipse, is very much energizing and activating that element within every one of us. We hear that there's an ascension taking place, and in simple terms, it's just we're all offered the opportunity to elevate to a higher vibrational frequency. It doesn't mean that everyone will embrace the experience, and it doesn't mean that there's any right or wrong in this. These experiences are quite personal, and very unique to who we are as individuals. And sometimes, that ascension process can be uncomfortable. It's no different when a mountain climber ascends a mountain. There's difficulties there. You have a hard time breathing sometimes, and it does sometimes feel uncomfortable. But just imagine having that experience and reaching the pinnacle of the mountain. How, one, you can see so much more, and you can see the bigger picture, and how exhilarating that is. So if you are having any challenges regarding ascension, certainly this full moon lunar eclipse is an opportunity to correct some of those imbalances and some of that discord, but also to honor and remember your connection with spirits and your higher self, and allow yourself to clear that etheric connection with the higher self so that spirit can communicate with you without interferences. So, that being said, I'm spiritualist, psychic, astrologer, and medium Ray Sette. As always, I thank you for this opportunity, for allowing me to share with you some of my spiritual and astrological insights for March of 2024. As always, remain in the light, and always and forever in a place of love. Many blessings. Namaste, everyone.